Okay, at 6 p.m. we'll call the meeting to order. First thing, let's have the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Whaley, will you lead us in both, and everyone please stand and remove your hats, please.
Father, we just start this meeting by asking for your abundant blessing. We know that you have guaranteed our blessings, and Christ is the source of all of our grace. We have had a bad week in law enforcement in the state of Georgia. We ask you to just bless all of our state, local, and county law enforcement officers as they go about their duty. We ask you to bring peace for the federal election. Bless our state and county governments. But more specifically, Father, I ask that you bring our city government your grace. Give us the patience to do as you would have us do. We thank you for this lovely weather in this lovely town and for the opportunity to do your will in our city government. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item number 3, approval of minutes from the previous meeting, which was July the 16th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Okay, Matt, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, let's have a roll call vote. Bill?
No, I've got something to say about it.
Okay.
I'd like to go on record that I'm going to vote no on the minutes from July 16, 2024.
Okay.
The reason is because the mayor represented the budget amendment number 2, 2023, saying that the $214,900 expenditure for roads, drainage, and sidewalks was already spent. I asked on 3 separate occasions and she stated that it had been spent, and that's what it says. Not 3 times that she said that's what it says. 2 times it has been spent. The last time, that's what the amendment said. I first abstained because I wanted to talk to finance. Mayor Haid assured me that it was spent, and I changed my vote to yes. On Wednesday, after the meeting on July 16th, I spoke with James, the finance guy, and he provided me with documentation that the money had not been spent and was sitting in the SPLOST account.
Okay. And that is correct. You are correct in that I did tell you that because it was marked as an expenditure, and James did say that that could have been misleading. But then again, he also had given all council members and the mayor a handout the month prior that explained very clearly that that money had not been spent. And that was on a handout that was not read, obviously, by anyone on this council, including myself. And I will admit to that, and I would hope the rest of you would, because you should have read that in your packet. So, I agree with you. We all should have read it in our packet. He wrote it very clearly.
Is that your mic?
I'm not sure. But thank you for bringing that to our attention, because it was something that we all neglected to do. So thank you, Bill. Okay. So we will not, if you want to discuss that now, are you all ready to vote on them? And then this can be added to next month's agenda, what you and I both have said.
I'm just saying I'm voting no.
Okay.
If you don't get the rest of the votes, that's...
Okay, we'll do that. Okay. Christy?
Yes.
Okay. Jack?
No.
Okay. Angie?
No.
And Dr. Whaley?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get this, Joe?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, moving on to the next item. This is the approval of agenda or motion to agenda, and it is my understanding that one of our council members last year in 2023 asked that under public comments, under number 10, that verbiage which states, "Do not misconstrue, this is a question and answer session with the mayor or council, limit 3 minutes per person. Please state name and address before comments. All comments should be addressed to the mayor. I believe Councilman Angie Arp asked that to be added to our agenda, which it was, but I believe now they're wanting to remove it. Is that correct?
I understand that you want to just remove the mandatory name and address, but leave
That
the
is
rest.
not me. That would be from,
No,
Isn't that what it says right now? You don't have to give your name, you just speak?
no, it says you have to. That was
On the
added
agenda
last.
It does, but on our meeting policy, it does not.
So, yeah, on the
Well-
agenda, and as the attorney sent out earlier, anytime you adopt an agenda, becomes an official document, which is part of the policy. So if you guys don't want that, and like I said, you all are the ones who wanted to add it in 2023, but if you want it removed, we just have to make an amendment, and then we won't add it to the agenda anymore.
No, I asked Eric to have, when in public comments, to have anyone that spoke to state their name and address.
Mm-hmm.
He put it on the agenda, but it's not in our policy. And he told me, he said, well, it's not enforceable, the policy doesn't say it. So it's optional. We can ask them if they want to say yes, or, I mean, if they do,
Yeah.
they can, if they
But
don't. they
I-
don't
yeah,
have to.
from what
But
Chuck-
he says, that's right, from
Yeah.
what he said today, clarified that
It needs-
anything that's, if we approve the agenda, then that's the way it has to be.
Yeah, so do you want to remove it, or do you want it to stay on there? I personally did not see a need to have it on there in the first place, so.
Well, I thought it was necessary because, you know, there's some folks that are saying they're speaking for citizens. Well, what citizens? We need to know, you know, it doesn't matter who speaks, but, you know, we would like to know if citizens, actual citizens that live here, are speaking before us with concerns. So it doesn't really matter to me, though. It's up
So
to
do
council.
you guys want to make a motion, anyone to remove it? Or do you want it to stay the same?
Well, since it's not in our policy, I don't think we should have it on there then. If he says that, you know, if we approve it, that it has to be that way, but it's not in our policy. So
Okay.
I don't think it should be there.
Is that a motion?
I'll make the motion to remove it, that particular thing. I don't believe anybody should have to give their name and address if they don't want to.
I agree.
Because with everything that's going on in the political climate, I think we're fine. We're here to hear the people. I think that's what we need to do.
Okay,
We've had some folks leave this building that wanted to speak, didn't get to.
okay. Is there a second?
Well, just to make sure, so the motion is to approve the agenda as written
With
with
the
the
removal.
exception that the language in public comment, please state name and address before comments. will be
Remove the name and
removed.
address, they don't have to do that.
Okay,
That's my motion.
okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, now, after a second, we'll have discussion. Is there,
It's just a question. Jack, it's your intent actually to remove.
speak into your mic, please.
Jack, it's your intent, and I agree with it, just to remove the name and address, that the rest of the clause would stay intact. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, let's have a roll call vote. Bill?
Yes?
Christie?
yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
And Bill?
Yes.
So the next item on the agenda is a public hearing, and I'm going to turn this over to Chuck because we've gone back and forth a bit with this particular variance request, and I'm gonna let you explain it, and then Joe, will you please get our consultant on Zoom, please? Okay,
This property was the subject of a variance application a few months ago, and at the time, if I recall correctly, the request was to measure the required front setback from the back of pavement instead of the right-of-way line, which is where we normally do it. And I think we pointed out that we can't really vary from the way we measure it, but we can vary the measurement itself, if that makes sense. And so my understanding is that the application was withdrawn, that staff went out with the property owner, and so the measurement will be from the right-of-way line. It's just to reduce the required setback from 25 feet to 5 feet. And I think the applicant's here and they can explain why they think the reduction is necessary.
okay. And then if there are any questions, Mandy Cody, who is our consultant, she is available by Zoom, so you can ask her any questions if you guys need to. What we'll do, Mandy, do you have anything to say prior? Hold on, we can't hear you. Okay, Mandy, can you try speaking again?
Good evening, Mayor. Can you
Okay.
hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, everyone. I want to amend just a little bit to make some clarity. There was an application that was filed several months ago that was ultimately withdrawn by the applicant. That's also my understanding. And I have visited the site with the staff and in receipt of a revised new application as well as a boundary survey. The application now before council is to reduce the required front yard setback from the ordinance requirement of 25 feet to 5 feet. I think the confusion is where to measure the setback from, Mayor, and I can get into that if council's ready for me to do so, or we can wait a moment and open this up to the applicant to speak, whichever order you prefer.
I'd prefer you go ahead and speak.
Okay. So the question I think at hand for this application is where to measure from. And in this instance, we have a property that abuts a paved area and a right-of-way. And in this instance, the asphalt paved street area is more narrow than the right-of-way. There's actually a 60-foot right-of-way that we commonly think of as McKinney Street, but McKinney Street itself is only about 16 foot wide of the asphalt. We think was the asphalt. But the city actually owns in the right-of-way about 60 foot. There's also some adjacent utility easements abutting this property. And because there is a difference in this particular instance between where the right-of-way is and where the front property line lies, according to the definition of the zoning ordinance, we would measure the front yard setback from the applicant's property line. And the city's ordinance defines the front yard setback as being an area between the property line and the structure that has to be unobstructed and clear of any sort of building or other impediment. Your ordinance requires 25 feet for this particular residential district. The applicant is asking for 5 feet. The boundary setback was included in your application materials, which I believe was included in your agenda packets. Council, if I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to do so. We need to talk, and we'll talk through the standards for your consideration in just a moment. But is everyone clear what the request is?
Is everyone clear? Okay.
Yes.
So, Mandy, what I'd like to do at this time is open up for public comments, and then after that, I'll allow for questions from the council, and then we can make a decision, hopefully, on this, put it to bed. So at this time, if you will, we're going to open it up for public comments. If you have a comment you'd like to make, please come up to the microphone. And what did we allow for this? A total of 10 minutes per pro, and if you're for it or you're against it. So we'll begin with those who are in favor of this variance. Just come up to the mic and speak.
I will say there has been a lot of confusion. Even having the city council offer staff to come out to the site. Just from the very beginning, even city members marked the property wrongly of where the setback should be. So we were actually given the green light, yep, you're good, start. And I personally went out and said, no, that stake's not right. I'm happy to use that stake that you put in the ground, but I don't want to do this wrong and then start building, and then the inspector comes out and says, wait, that stake's wrong, when I didn't even place that stake. The city staff placed that stake. Yes, we're asking for a 5-foot setback, but that's still, even with that 5-foot setback, that still leaves us 25 feet from the edge of the road. There's that much space there. If we're not given the setback, we're gonna be 45 feet from the edge of the road. And if we build our house in that way, structurally, it's gonna stick out from the slope, which is what we have the problem here, is the topography hardship. So you can build anything with enough money, right? But part of our house will be off of a cliff and so there's not really enough room to do what we're trying to do. We've done the best we can by bringing in dirt, but if you saw this lot before we even started, it had the hardship initially, because it starts from the road. If we built the house the way it was, basically you'd walk out your front door and you're just looking at the, you know, the side of the cliff there that this property has. So we brought in dirt, made it level, a level area for the house. So that this is why now we're asking, so we can at least be similar to other homes in the area, and also to keep us from having to build our house to where we're looking at the back door of our neighbor's house, because that's what was gonna happen if we build it according to the current setback. So we would like to be very similar to our neighbors. I mean, not quite as close, because some of them are very close, but at least to be, you know, uniform to the neighborhood. So, would you like to add to that?
No, I think you covered it pretty clearly. I think we can open for questions. Shall I have any?
Okay, at this time, we're going to continue with the public hearing, so we'll ask you questions in a minute. Okay.
Do you want us to sit down?
Yeah,
Please,
we're done.
please. Okay. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of this variance? You have 7 minutes. Okay. So at this time, we will ask anyone in the audience if they have any opposition. If so, please come up to the mic and speak. Okay, we will close that part of the public hearing. Council, do you guys have any questions for either
Danny,
Mandy or the attorney?
come to the microphone, Danny.
Danny, will you please come to the microphone?
You and I walked this property, didn't we?
Yes,
The trailers that are setting to the left of the property, if you're looking into the property, how far are they from the center line? Do you recall?
don't recall right off the top
Wasn't
of
it
my head.
16 feet?
It's probably a little further than that, but not much.
I think Ms. Sims just said 16
We
feet.
measured 14
Okay.
to 16 feet.
Okay,
Now McKinney, where it comes across right there and goes in front of those trailers, narrows up, doesn't it?
it does narrow, yeah. The whole road's narrow, really.
Right.
The only place that where it's not narrow is
So
in that
we've got an
intersection.
8-foot lane and a 4-foot lane, basically, right there where the yellow line sets. Is that correct?
Pretty close, yeah.
Okay. So if we allow this variance, where's the front of that house gonna be and adjacent to where you and I stood? From the center line of McKinney Street.
From the center line, you're gonna be, what you gotta realize is you have a 60-foot right of way, but that's 30 feet left, 30 feet right. When you pull 30 feet, which like Mandy said, when you pull, they wanna pull from the property line back to that. So when we pull that, you're gonna be setting, I mean, it's gonna put them close to the road.
How close? Guess.
I don't know, probably, if guessing's not really a good idea to do.
It's probably not a good idea to
It's not a
guess.
good idea to guess, really.
Give me an idea.
Probably 15, 20 feet. That's just a
From the
guess.
center line or from the road?
From the center line. When you pull, it may be a little bit, maybe a little bit more, maybe 30, 35, give or take.
And-
But like
and
I said,
if
without
you guys
pulling it,
have
we don't
exact
know.
measurements, we can get them from you.
25 feet from the edge of the road.
Say it again?
25 feet from the edge of the road.
So-
Edge of the road.
So it'd give you another 8
Your
feet.
variance will, if we allow this variance, you will be 25 feet from the edge of the road,
Edge of the road, yes.
not the center line.
35 from the center of the road. I measured about 10 feet for the road.
So the end of your property will be 25 feet from the edge of the road.
Yes, correct.
The front porch, from the little front porch start 25 feet and then
Yeah, I'll walk the property. Show me what you're talking about.
That's
I
the
can't
front.
see that. Move that up here a little bit, please. Thank
This
you.
is where we want the front of the house, and here's the road way over here. That's what we're asking for that blue circle.
This is the flagging when I was out there. Well, they reflagged that after you and I was out, correct?
I'd assume so, yes.
Okay. So this is the edge of McKinney. This is where their front porch would be.
Okay, so while they're discussing over here, Mandy, is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
Yes, ma'am, I'm concerned that we're talking about the setback being from the edge of the road. If by the edge of the road, we mean the edge of the pavement, if that's what is being discussed here, then by my calculation, the setback would encroach the city's right of way. There's simply not enough footage there, and it is imperative, my recommendation to council would be that it is an imperative for you all to protect the right of maintained on behalf of the public. It is a piece of public property. The right-of-way is where not only the asphalt goes, but it's where the opportunity for the street to be widened, for curbs and gutter at a later date, for sidewalks, for street lights, for utilities to be placed. And the right-of-way at that particular location is 60 feet wide. Somewhere within that 60 feet is 16 feet of asphalt road. The ordinance requires that the setback be measured from the applicant's property line, not the asphalt road, not the pavement, so that the city has the opportunity at a later date to repave that road or expand the pavement on that road. That is a very narrow road, as we know, and you may want an opportunity later on to repave, extend that road, add utilities. There's also some other utility easements that are non-city utilities there that also have to be protected. So I think we need to be very clear, Mayor, where are we seeking to measure from? The ordinance requires the setback to be measured from the applicant's property line, not edge of pavement.
And just to build on Mandy's comment, if approved, this would not affect the point from which the setback is measured, right? That's set forth in the ordinance. That would not change. It would only reduce that setback from 25 feet to 5 feet from wherever the ordinance says that it's measured from. Does that make sense? So whatever we're discussing in terms of the edge of pavement and all that, the ordinance says what it says in terms of where we start the measurement. That's not changing. The request is to reduce the distance from that point from 25 feet to 5 feet.
As I understand it, that would not sacrifice the right-of-way. The right-of-way would still be 60 feet, and that's where we would put utilities and sidewalks and wider street. Am I not correct?
Correct. We're not encroaching in the
Okay.
setback at all.
The thing is, Doc, that you have to understand is when we walk that down
I've
McKinney
walked it, I
Street.
got 50 pictures of it.
Okay, didn't you notice where the road was so narrow right
Yeah.
there? We're gonna eventually have to widen that road.
What I'm saying is, the 25 feet, or the 30 feet from the center line, we're not talking about encroaching on here at all. We're talking about the man on his own property, bringing his house 5 feet from that property the city owns instead of 25 feet. You know,
Mayor, if I
10
can
feet.
correct, council
Yeah.
did look in their packet at the boundary survey that the applicant submitted. And Chuck, if you'll help me walk through this with everyone, I think it shows pretty clearly on that boundary survey where, Mr. and Mrs. Sims' property line is, very dark, bold, black line outlining the parcel. And if you'll notice, right adjacent to it is a very thin line. If you look all the way to the left, there's a key there. It says R/W. That's your right-of-way line.
Does everyone have that?
Here you go, Ben.
And if you look just above that, you'll
Right
see where it's marked 16 feet asphalt road.
It's there.
I'd like to add something also. On that street, there are, as he mentioned, there are houses pretty close by that are extremely close to the road. If you ever go in there and widen that road, you're going to displace those particular homes, I would feel like, because they're right on the right of way. So I don't know that we would even have a possibility of widening that road because of that. Did you hear that, Christie? Yeah. Jack, did you
We
hear
would
that?
have to go through condemnation, I would think. not
You'd probably
unlike
have
our
to
district
if you were
court.
ever going to, so I don't see us ever doing that just simply because of the residential homes that are already in existence there right on the right of way, so.
Well, it's only the trailers down from it that's right on it.
Yes.
The ones on the other end that where Chastain and McKinney comes
Oh,
into.
yeah, you're right,
is
yeah.
not, and that's
Yeah.
kind of a narrow area right there to the right of that by the vacant
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Yeah, just the ones to the left of it, but yeah, they would have to be displaced. Okay, any other questions or comments? Mandy?
Do,
Just to reference back to that survey, Mayor, if everyone sees the right-of-way marked, the 60-foot width, the asphalt road is within the right-of-way, 25-foot front setback from that bold property line to a distance of 5 feet from the bold property line. And per the ordinance, that would require that 5 feet to be completely unbuilt in.
Okay. And you all received your analysis as of last Thursday, so you should have had a chance to review that.
Can I ask Mandy a question?
Please.
Mandy, when I was reading your executive summary and discussing this with various employees of the city, there was some confusion about whether their request was to encroach on the right-of-way, and clearly it is not. Is that correct?
That was not the request as it was stated in the application, Councilman.
Okay.
The application stated a request to reduce the 25-foot setback in the front yard to 5 feet.
Got it.
On your property. Okay, are there any other questions or comments?
Do we have other properties in the city where we have given variance to make a 5-foot setback from the right-of-way in other situations since we have been members of council? Not old trailers that have been there for 30 years and old houses that have been there for 50 years, but have we in this council given a variance to cut 20 feet off of the setback that is in our ordinances?
Not to my understanding, you have not.
Nobody?
No, I don't
Okay,
think we have.
that's, so there is no precedent previously in our activities. There's precedent because there's a trailer there and there's some houses there, but they've been there since the 80s or 70s or something. But modern city council, we have city council members that are from the past city councils that won't recall any granting of a variance to take 25 down to 5 or down to 10. Is that?
That's correct. You'd be setting the precedent. So,
I'm sorry?
not in my knowledge, but you'd be setting one.
Yes, okay, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I don't recall any since I've been on council, but that's not to say that it's never happened. So it's kind of a unique situation, your particular lot is, so.
There's not very many lots left, like, this road is pretty much complete, almost, it's a very small road, 10 or less houses, we're one of the last remaining lots, unless the person next to us sells a piece off, that's been a home for forever, so it's kind of on its finishing, you know what I mean, there's not room for progress on this road. This road is this little small road that's not gonna become something much larger or much bigger. It is already
Correct.
written down as needed.
Well, there is an 1.5 acre or 2 acre lot right there across from it, so there is a vacant lot. So that probably eventually will be developed, but
That faces First Street, correct?
it won't, I don't think it would be able to go out on First Street though, because there's a wall there, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they'd have to go out on either Chastain or McKinney, yeah.
Yeah, I would,
Is that the hardship piece that is included in your plan is taken into consideration?
okay. Okay, are we ready to make a decision?
I think
Okay.
we have to have a motion.
That's what I'm
Accept.
asking. Do I have a motion? And this is a variance, so you need to make a motion one way or the other, so.
Bill? You were gonna make the motion? I make a motion, we deny the variance.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote. Bill?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Angie?
I'll abstain.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to action item under number 7. The first one is a Mountaintops Water Rehab Bid Award, and we have Matt Smith from Carter and Sloop. Matt, are you still here? Yes. There you are. Okay, will you please come up to the mic? We were awarded money several years ago during COVID that we have put, it was called the ARPA, our ARPA funds, and we received them, decided to move forward with this particular project, which I believe we had $1 million from COVID funds, and then we were going to put another $1 million in from city funds. Moving right along, we get to the point we put the bid out, and here Matt's going to explain to us what's occurred with our bid.
So, the mayor's right, $1 million from ARPA, $1 million match, that was just, what the city felt like they could put in a 50-50 match to make their, application competitive. That wasn't, it wasn't dictated off of a project scope at that time. We then went with the city personnel to find out what areas were the worst on breaks, leaks, and that was kind of the back, very back 15 or 20% of the subdivision. So we bid out water line replacement on those lines, and knowing that it was going to be over budget, we were just going to trim back whatever we needed to match the funding. We only had one bidder, T. Stanco Company. We were expecting a few more, but because of the way the roads are in that subdivision, they're tight. There's a lot of rock. The existing water line's under the road in some areas, and there's not a lot of places to install the new water line. A lot of the contractors were concerned about bidding that job. We had a lot of them pull out because of it's not the best laying conditions. So T. Stanco came in at $3.9 million, and we can do, like I say, just under 2, probably 1.8 with the funding for what's set aside for construction. So it would limit our scope from roughly 18,000 feet. We cut it down below 9 to get it done, get that portion done. And in conversations with Becky and the other city staff, felt like that was going to be too small of a project for $1.8 million, that we wanted to try to rescope it, decide which areas have the most leaks, put in valves, meters to try to isolate those areas, maintain pressure differently than what it is right now, reduce the pressure, and rescope it to get a project that's more in the $1.8 million range and try to get as much bang for the buck as we can for that amount. And also try to attract more bidders.
So you're suggesting now that so basically we're going to reject this bid and then put out another bid with a new scope of work?
Yes, I have the
Okay.
advertisement ready to go in the
Okay.
newspaper tomorrow if that's what the council would like to
Okay.
do. And we have revised the bid form to adjust for these changes that we discussed with the city's staff.
Okay. And I think everyone's had a chance to discuss this with Becky. So do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to, I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Bill. I was talking.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll go ahead and make the motion to reject the current bid from Stanco of $3.8 million and to allow Carter and Sloop to rescope and rebid the project.
Second.
Let's have a roll call vote. Dr. Whaley?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
And Bill?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the next, thank you. Yeah, and don't feel like you have to stay for the rest of the meeting, so we know you have a long drive. Next part, under B, is the EPD required software and compliance contract renewal. Becky, do you want to talk on that for just a second? Becky, by the way, she's our department head over both the water and sewer department.
So I think I've spoke with most everyone. EPD implemented a new lead and copper service line inventory requirement. And in an effort to meet that requirement, we would like to contract with Carter and Sloop to move us forward. We've been in the process of identifying service lines for over a year now. And that requires digging up in meter boxes, around meter boxes, trying to identify the pieces of line between the main and the meter, and then also on the back side of the meter, which would be the customer service line. And what EPD is having all public water systems check for is lead. And to date, we have not found any lead pipes in our system. But we are going to continue those efforts until all of the service lines in the city have been checked. Beyond that, we're required to do a sampling plan and a lead service line replacement plan. Carter and Sloop will bring that full circle between the software required to report to EPD, the sampling plan, the lead service line replacement plan, and the help with the grant funding. And so task release 47 is to allow Carter and Sloop to help the city work on the lead and copper service line inventory requirement from EPD.
Okay, thank you. Do you guys have any questions for Becky?
Yes, I asked, or I was told or led to believe that Carter and Swope doing this same project for other municipalities were able to write some grants and get somebody to pay for it. Is that, is there any hope that that might happen?
That is correct, and the city will be moving forward once we determine the amount needed to complete this phase of the project for EPD. We will be applying for some of that funding, and I believe the state has awarded some water entities 100% principal forgiveness on these fundings.
Is that the only two types of lines that we have that's older, is lead and copper?
No, there are some galvanized lines as well. Galvanized lines are not lead lines, but if a galvanized line is downstream from a lead line, we will be required to replace it as well.
Okay.
The city would like to replace those anyway, just for good water quality.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And I think Morgan started this maybe a few months ago, didn't they? I'm not sure who they're working with, but I believe they're...
Morganton did
Yeah.
send out some stuff on this. So Morganton went through probably 10 or 12 years ago, and they did an entire distribution system replacement. So the danger in lead is all pre-1990 installs. Even though EPD is requiring us to identify all of our service lines, everything after 1990 was required by law to be manufactured non-lead for water systems. So anybody after 1990, which Morganton's distribution system will be,
Yeah.
is going to be non-lead.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, do I have a motion?
So move for the approval of the EPD required LCRR software and compliance contract.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Bill Bivens,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Dr. Whaley.
Yes.
Okay. Chief Stewart, will you please come up to the mic? We're also discussing hiring under C, under action items, hiring of a full-time officer, Michael Lutz, and I'll let you explain, if you will, please, kind of what's going on with that.
Well, he's been his prior employee. He worked here prior, about 2 months ago. He left to do some training with some dogs. He decided to come back. I spoke with him. We've had 3 applicants. He's the best one that we had vetted. And let's see, I was train of thought.
And you may want to tell the council exactly what he's going to be doing, because I know he's going to work with compliance and different things of that nature, correct?
Well, actually, we'll
Yep.
move Investigator Henry to
Yep.
compliance,
And then
and
let him-
Officer Woodall
Okay.
was compliance.
Okay.
He will be filling the slot that was vacated back in May with Officer Lutz, not Lutz, I'm sorry, but Mang when he left.
Okay.
So we've been filling this void with part-time right now, but it puts a strain on the part-time because the hours they can work and stuff, because it is a full-time slot.
And our compliance officer, he's part-time?
No, well, yes,
Or he-
yes,
yeah.
he is. Woodall
Okay.
is part-time.
So Woodall, so he could assist if needed with any of
Yes.
that? Okay. Okay, does anyone have any questions?
He's
For
an
the
instructor
chief.
too, isn't he, Robbie?
That is correct. Yes,
He's a
that's where I
certified
was-
instructor in Georgia?
Certified instructor, yes.
So we'd
That's
have
good.
an instructor on staff also.
We'd have 2 instructors on staff.
That's right, that's good. Okay, any other questions? And we actually have one here sitting up here too. Our city clerk is also a licensed police officer. So,
And
Which
he'll be
is-
on probation 6 months, is that?
yes.
Yes, any new hire, I think is
Yep.
standard probation 6 months.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Let's have a roll call vote. Bill Bivens,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
and Bill.
Yes.
Riley. Okay. Derek Pless, period evaluation to full-time transfer of departments. Who, you want to talk about that, or? Anybody?
Yes.
And actually, if you will, talk about Gerald also, Gerald
Okay.
Fortenberry, if you don't mind. And that's section E, D and E.
Okay. Derek Pless was an employee. He worked for the water treatment plant. He was moved to water distribution because he was change of departments. He was put on a 6-month probationary period. Great worker, excelled in what he's doing. He's coming off of probation.
Okay. And then Gerald Fortenberry?
Joe Fortenberry was on water distribution. He was moved over to park department. Again, excelled. He's done great work. He's coming off of his 6 months probationary period.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. The park looks amazing. It really does. And thanks to you too. So let's vote on Derek first. Derek Pless, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, let's just do a roll call vote again. Bill Bivens,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
and Dr. Whaley.
Yes.
Okay, and Gerald Fortenberry to remove him from his probationary period of, from transferring of departments.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
second. Right, let's have another roll call vote. Bill Bivens,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Angie.
Yes.
And Dr. Whaley.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Joe, you may want to get up again, because if you don't mind, I'm gonna let you discuss the ADA ramp. And that is, the next is F, under action items.
Yes, the ramp would go on this side of the building. It would give the citizens an easier access into City Hall without having to try to come through the back all the way up to the front. We would do a curb cut, add in concrete to come off the left side right here. All of it would be ADA compliant. Anybody with wheelchair, any handicap would have full access to City Hall without having to wait on an employee to come to the back door and come through. Also, it would help with council meetings where all public would come through on the front side. Everybody would have one section to come into, and that's what we're requesting.
Okay. And the total cost on that, you're approximately $6,000 to $7,000. Does that include the door, getting the correct? I know we were going to put a push button on the door to make it open.
That would be, we would have to go through ETC.
Okay.
And that's something that would be another cost.
Another additional, okay.
Yes.
Okay, do you guys have any questions for Joe?
How much did you say? I missed it.
6,000 to 7,000, sorry.
Without the door. And then that puts everybody coming through the metal detector as well, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
a wheelchair fit through the metal detector? I guess it can.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good deal. Any other questions?
I think Jack should suggested it for safety, right? For
I
safety,
did.
yes, yeah.
In this political climate that we have, and Dr. Whaley touched on it, Georgia's not the only one that's lost officers in the last 2 weeks, Doc. There's been all over the United States. They're just, and our job here as council persons are to keep our people in this building safe. And I'd like to see everybody come through the door, everybody come through a metal detector. Not because I'm not Second Amendment, because all you know I'm 100% Second Amendment, but because we need to protect our staff. So I would like for that to happen so that everybody comes through the front door.
Okay, I agree. That's, I think, a good idea. Any other comments or questions? Okay, do you want to make the motion?
I make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Bill Bivens,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
And we probably will have to do a budget amendment to this, but we can do that. We have a lot of funds left in the general from lack of projects that have been done, so we should be able to do it easily. Okay, discussion item, we have nothing there. Reports, I do want to give a quick report on the red light. That is being installed right now. I did get a text this evening from a lady in the community, and she said, I think it may be below, it has to be so many feet, 18 feet, I believe, and it was a little bit below. So I called Denny, and Denny confirmed that is true. We've put out a public statement, but what we're going to have to do, Denny, tell everybody so they'll know. Hopefully people watching.
Yes, the red light is a little bit low. We have a problem with one of the poles there. It's old and it's rotting at the bottom. So the company that's actually putting the light in is going to come back and set us a new pole, and then the light will be raised to the height it's supposed to be. But right now it's high enough for tractor trailers and everything to come under. So we're just going to keep a watch on it, and they'll be back in the next week or so to fix that. So it'll be handled very swiftly.
Could you also give a quick report? I know we've been getting some calls about Mountain Street being closed, and
Mountain Street, the storm drain project we're ahead of schedule. They had us scheduled to be, they're slotted to be, Mountain Street to be closed from August 5th to September the 15th. If everything continues the way it's going and we don't run into any issues, any problems, we should be done with that section in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and Mountain Street will be back open. But there's still a lot of stuff that we have to do in that area. We've got manholes to set and sewer lines that we have to remove, that we have to take out and put back in. So I know it's an inconvenience for everybody, but please be patient. We're moving, and they're moving as fast as they can move. So
I didn't realize how much I used that road until I couldn't use it.
tell me about it.
Even trying to go to Mona Lisa's the other night, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go all the way and back around. And
I live on 8th
yeah.
Street, so every time I come to work, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah, so hey, we will all appreciate it a lot.
Let me
Okay.
ask
When
him
it's
a
open.
question about the red
Yes,
light,
go
if
right
you
ahead.
don't mind.
Uh-huh.
Denny, you and I